here. So in this video I'm going to show you a really effective way of seeing arpeggios on the fretboard. I'm going to show you this with a major arpeggio and then show you how you can do this with a minor arpeggio as well. But it's a very effective method. I had a lot of success with it myself, and also all the students that I've shown it to as well. All right, so I'm going to show you this in the key of A, and I suggest that you stick to this key until you feel really comfortable, because moving along to another key right away will just be confusing. But once you feel really comfortable in the key of A, you can learn another key, and then when that's comfortable, you learn yet another one. And once you have around 3-4 keys under your belt, you'll find that adding more keys will be a much quicker thing, because you're actually going to start seeing how all these connect. So that's the whole point of this way of doing it. So starting here on the 17th fret, and you have the tabs on my Patreon, obviously. All right, so we got 17 on the E string, we got the 16 on the A string, 14 on the D string, and 19 on the D string. And I do these 1 octave shapes because basically we're covering 1 octave, and it's quite a good shape for sweeping and also for alternate picking. I'm just going to alternate pick it now. You can use the same shapes for sweep picking and hybrid picking as well, but it's not really about how to play the arpeggios here. It's more about where to find them and be really comfortable with all the shapes and see how they interconnect. So we have this shape, and that's basically 1, 3, 5, and then 1 again. All right, so this is important because this is called the root position, and that's the same for chords as well. So a chord and arpeggio is interchangeable. Arpeggios means that you play a chord with the notes separate. So, and the inversions then mean that if you have the root note as the lowest note of the arpeggio, that means it's the root position, very logical. After that, you can have the third as the lowest note, and that would be called the first inversion, because that's the first one we've sort of jumbled the notes around. And a quick note here is that you don't really need to keep the other notes after that note in any particular order. You can add more or less notes, because what names an inversion is just the lowest note. So it doesn't really matter if I play a low E here and I play this A arpeggio in the root position, it still will be sounding like the second inversion. Why? Because I have the fifth in the bass. So that's the thing to remember for other things, but for our purposes, it's just going to be the lowest note of our arpeggio. And also our lowest note will be the highest note as well, because it's going to be on 1 octave shape. So in this case we have 16, 14, 14, and then 18. And the intervals will be 3, 5, 1, 3. And the final one will be the second inversion, where you have the fifth in the bass. So if we take this from here, just to keep everything in the same position, we got 5, 1, 3, and then 5 again. So the way we're going to do this now is we're going to take them in turn and go through it on all the different string groups. So it's going to be 4 different string groups, because we use 3 strings at a time here, and I have a 6-string guitar. So the first one you already know, and then the second string group starts on this A, will be exactly the same shape because the tuning is the same. Now, since I'm tuned as, you know, standard tuning, I would have to adapt here for the B string. So I have it here instead of there, right? So I would have 7, 6, 5, and then 8. And then the final one here, from the 14th fret, we got 14, 14, 12, and then 17. So that's all of the shapes for this particular root position arpeggio. And that's because we have this set pattern, right? So if you would have another shape, but this pattern is very usable. So that's why I chose that one. So, but in that case, we only get these 4 on a standard tuned 6-string guitar. Next one then is the first inversion. So I'm going to start here on C sharp. So 1, 2, 3. So and then I have the fifth here, and then the root, and then we have the third again here. So, and then we find our old friend here from the beginning. And then we have the same thing here. This particular fingering is not very practical in my opinion, but it's still there and part of this sort of setup, so it's worth being, you know, knowing that it's there at least. But if you want, you can also do this. That's a more practical fingering. So even when I do, you know, sequences with this, I usually go for string skipping for this one. But that's sort of besides the point here, so just focus on this. So you get 11, 9, 10, and then you get a big stretch here. So again, not the most comfortable, but I think it's important to know it's just not this black hole when you try to connect it with something else, which we will do later. All right, and then the next one is way easier. And then we're kind of done. Now you might wonder, well, can I play this here and I can play that up here? Yes, you can, and I think you should. But just realize it's not going to be any new shapes. It's just going to be higher or lower depending on your starting shape on that string group. But it's good to cover all of it. All right, so the second inversion, that's going to be with the fifth in the bass. So we start here. So we got 12, 12, 11, and then 14. Then next one, exactly the same. It's kind of good when you start on this lowest string group, because then you get two string groups in a row where it's the same shape, so you can feel, you know, a bit more confident. Then I'm going to do the old friend here again, so we're going to go 14, 14, 14, 17. Now this fingering is a good example why it's good to work on this whole rolling technique for the barring. And I'm going to actually link to a video about that so you can get that on your fingers quicker, because it can be quite annoying at first. The next and last shape will be this one though, which is way easier. It's kind of the open D major shape. So that's all the shapes. Now, the way that I would suggest that you practice these is to do the following. I like to use the looping method that I've talked about before, but in case you don't know what it is, basically any loop you have, meaning can be, in this case, we're just going to go up like that. So we get 6 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So that's the first loop of 6 available, because we have 6 starting points basically. And I start on the second note and go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. Start on the third, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. And then 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. And final, second to last, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the last one, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's actually harder to just say the numbers in that weird order, but hopefully you can see what I mean. So it's kind of like a clock face, right? So if you go from 12 to 12, you can go from 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, and so on. So that's the idea. And the reason why I want to do this is because you give your brain a much more complete picture of the shape. And I like to do a couple of reps for each of these. And in this case, it's a really good alternate picking exercise as well, but you can do it with sweep picking as well. But now I'm going to do it with alternate picking, starting with a downstroke for each variation, which will turn the picking around, which is another benefit. So this is part of what I call my no stones unturned approach, where you basically try to cover everything as thoroughly as possible. So when you want to use this in improvisation or composing, you will not run into so many different problems, because you've basically worked on everything from a lot of different angles. So I will do it like this. Whoops. 2 reps like that, and always complete the loops. I start and stop on the same note. So in this case, it's always going to be a downstroke on the start and stop. So now I'll start on the second note, still on the downstroke. Third. Fourth. Fifth. And 6th. And I just want to mention this because I see this with private students, they miss this all the time. Since we have 4 notes, they think they're done once they start on this note. But remember, it's a loop, so we come back on this note as well, and on this one. But this is also the second note and the third note. So these notes in the middle, they repeat. They have an ascending and a descending version, if you understand what I mean. And then you just do that on each string group. So you go here, but do 2 reps, or 3 or 4, you can do more, but I would do more than 1 though. Just do this to make the video a bit shorter. And then you do the same thing on the next one. and the final one. And again, for extra credit, if you want, you can do it on the higher and lower arpeggio shapes if they're available as well. So once you've done that with the root position, you do the same thing with the first inversion. So same idea, you just do the looping thing starting on every note, on every string group, and then finally on the second inversion. So once you've done that, it's time to connect the shapes. So we're just going to do it like this. We're going to connect two shapes on two different string groups. We're going to do the root position, and then go straight into this first inversion, and then back. Obviously you can do a lot of different sequences here, but that's the one that I think you could try first. So you just go right, and then you do that on each string group. And the next one is quite annoying because you get this one, but that's just part of the whole thing of playing guitar. So still do it, but maybe do it slower at first. Whoops. And basically then you're done. You only have 3 variations here because you can't do the next one here. You could go up here, but I don't really care about that right now. So we're just going to do it this direction. And then you do the same thing starting on the 3rd, going into the 5th and back. And then you start on the 5th, going into the root and back. So you basically make sure you can do all 3 starting points. And once you've done that, you're really gonna see a big difference in how everything connects. So that's a super important part of this whole process. Now the next step after you've done that, I would do the same thing, but I would start on the top arpeggio. So if we have the first set again, I would start here and go down. So I go 3rd, the first inversion, root position, and then back up again. And then do that for all of them again. And once you've done that, you can start connecting them on a single string set. So let's say you take the root position here, but you obviously want to do it on all the different positions, but just as an example. So you have root position, and then you have the first inversion. And go back and forth like that. So that should keep you busy for quite a while. And once you've done all that work, I would suggest that you do it all again, but with minor arpeggios instead. And the only difference here for the minor arpeggio is that you're gonna lower the 3rd to a flat 3. So you're gonna get 1 flat 3 5 instead of 1 3 5. And that's the only difference between major and minor. Now, once you've done all this work, you're probably going to start seeing your bigger arpeggio shapes a bit differently, because you can see how they're basically made up of these smaller inversions and root positions of the different arpeggios. And that's quite a cool thing. So instead of being this big blob of a shape, you can see all the different notes within it. And once you can do that, I think you'll feel that you really accomplished something, because it's not just learning licks and things like that. You actually know what you're doing, and that's a very powerful thing when it comes to improvising or composing. So I highly suggest that you try this out, and I think just going through it with alternate picking, that will help you alternate picking a lot as well. And try it with sweep picking if you want, but above all, just focus on the accuracy and the ability to see these shapes on the fretboard. And like I said, stay in A for a while until you feel really comfortable in how everything connects, and then move to another key. Maybe you do C next, or maybe you do D. And then once you've done that, you can go and do G or E or whatever you want, really. But I think once you've done 3 or 4 keys, you will see how everything connects in whatever key you want. I suggest that you work on every key anyway, but I think you'll find that the process of being comfortable in a new key will be way quicker compared to the first couple of keys. So give it a try, let me know how it goes, and see you in the next one. Back in the day, I I used to have real issues with fast alternate picking when it came to 2 notes per string. I was fine with 3 notes per string, but the 2 notes per string thing was a bit harder to crack. So if you struggle with fast alternate picking as well, and you don't know what to practice or for how long, I've created the perfect solution for you in the form of the Pentatonic Picking Power Book. So in this book, you'll find a daily workout that will not only help your pentatonic picking, but will also upgrade your overall alternate picking technique. So it contains basically the same exercises I use myself to develop my picking abilities, as well as numerous students over the years that I've given the same exercise to with great results. So I know these exercises work as long as you put in the work. So it's not a quick solution or quick fix. It will still take a lot of work, but at least you have a very easy to follow routine. So if you're up for a big alternate picking upgrade in 2024, I cannot think of a better start. It's $9 and I think it's very underpriced, but I did it that way just so as many people as possible could be helped by this. So check that out.